Yo, what's good people? Today we have patch day. I didn't expect Raven to get any changes, but he got a very huge change, super significant change in his 15 frame launch. Well, his lack of 15 frame launch now is a 15 frame launch, if that makes sense. So his forward 4 is now his 15 frame launch. And I'm smiling because this is kind of just an insane change. Like, who would have thought they would have given Raven a 15 frame launcher, but here we are as his 15 frame launcher. So the first change we have is his heat burst. So it says when heat activation available, so that means when you haven't used heat. So this means his heat burst. So we're talking about his heat burst. The hitbox has been expanded, alleviating instances where the attack would miss in certain situations. So this is kind of a bug fix. There is a bonus stealth buff within this. We'll get to that in patch when I show you the changes in game. The second change now is forward 4 is a launcher, which is kind of crazy. So let's read what they put. So the following performance adjustments were made primarily to allow for use in punishing. So this allows Raven to launch -15 attacks, which was one of his major weaknesses, especially in matchups where, you know, a lot of the opponent's power moves were 15 frames. Like Brian could abuse a lot of -15 strings, Law, like a lot of characters could just abuse -15 things on Raven. He couldn't even launch Rage Art, which to be fair was not that huge of a problem because down forward 443 was a sufficient punish in 99% of time. So for Rage Arts, yes, we can launch Rage Arts, but in the majority of cases, we were going to kill with down forward 443 anyway. So that's not really why this change is crazy. The change is crazy because now we have a long range, easy mode whiff punisher that launches. Now, we all know how hard it is to launch someone for whiffing with Raven, especially because down forward 2 doesn't have the best range, and also it's 16 frames, right? And it's a down forward input, which sounds silly, but forward inputs generally are easier to execute anyway with no misinputs, if that makes sense, especially for me. So I think forward 4 being a full launcher now is crazy. Now, the only caveat here is it's a tornado upon hit. So remember 334, the counter hit, the last hit launch, it's kind of a similar animation. So that's the animation that it has now on hit, which is tornado, which I think is fair. I don't think it would be fair if it was like a full launcher. They also changed the damage from 23 to 17. Again, a fair change. 6 damage reduction, I don't think is too deep for what patches up one of Raven's huge holes in punishment. They gave him a good 14 frame in down forward 1-4, and they gave him a launch now, which is kind of crazy. The second change they made to it is the frame advantage on block has been changed from -9 to -12. So it is punishable, but the one thing that I will say is that it's very difficult for characters to punish it at tip range because this move has active frames. So if you hit the move at tip range, it's going to become -11. Now, if the opponent knows it's -12 and goes for a 12 frame punisher, a lot of 12 frame punishers are launched. So Lily's forward 2-3s launch, Asuka's 2-3s launch, Paul's back 1-2. I don't think it's launched, but it's heavily punishable. So again, if they go for that and it's tip range, they're not going to be able to punish it optimally. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, again, they've reduced the distance to the opponent on block, but you can space it to where they can't optimally punish. So those are Raven's changes. So we're going to jump in game. I'm going to show you the changes before the patch. So I'm just gonna show you forward 4 before the patch and what it does, because heat burst, I never really had hitbox issues with heat burst really, so I'm not really sure what situation to kind of set up to show you that, but I definitely am gonna go over forward 4 and what it did before the patch and after the patch. You can kind of see a side-by-side comparison in game, so you can really see how big of a change this is. This is crazy. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Like will help with the algorithm, commenting will also help with the algorithm, and subscribing will let me know that you enjoy the content. Let's get into it. Okay, currently forward 4 just knocks down on normal hit, 43 damage. You can go for other stuff for Oki as well, forward 4, but I usually just stick to, you know, forward 2. Same situation after bat turn power crush as well. So it's the same sort of knockdown. So forward 4 currently doesn't launch on counter hit, but it's gonna have the same animation as 334 on counter hit, where it triggers tornado. So that's not the optimal combo obviously, but yeah, that's what's going to happen. So 334, just keep in mind, this is now what's going to happen with forward 4 on normal hit, which is insane. Look at the range of forward 4 is crazy for whiff punishment. Imagine just whiff punishing and launching someone with this now. That, like, this is significant. I don't think people actually know how significant this is. Okay, yes, we can launch -15, but I personally feel like for defensive Raven players that have very good space control, bam, forward 4. It's going to be insane for whiff punishment. And the range, let's talk about the range quickly because it did specify in the patch note that it's increased the reach. So maybe the range is going to be increased as well. And I don't know, but let's test the range. 2.65, I would say, is the max reach of the move, the max range. So just keep that in mind. 2.65 is the maximum range of forward 4. And it hits from so far that you can't even do forward 3 for Oki. You have to do forward 2 or forward 4 at that range. So remember, 43 damage and 2.65 is the range of this move. So that's the type of damage potential you can expect with a forward 4 launch. This is going to be kind of insane. I don't think you guys are actually understanding what I'm saying. Like, this move to launch is ridiculous. Okay, we're in game. The patch is live. Let's take a look at forward 4. Forward 4 launching is just crazy. Especially if you're a very fundamental movement-based defensive Raven. You're going to love this change because it's such an easy mode whiff punisher now. Like, it was good before, but it's just like it didn't launch. So it's like I could whiff punish with this. I could whiff punish with this. I could whiff punish with this. Why would I use forward 4? But now it's like, this is the most easy mode of them all to launch. So it's like, this is a no-brainer. This is the GOAT whiff punisher now. So this is kind of crazy. Okay, let's look at the range. So the range, I was measuring 2.65. Now, I believe they did increase the range by a tad bit. Maybe not. By the wording, they increased it by a tad bit. So we're going to select block all. So we're just going to go 2.65. I just kind of fell back a little bit. So that's 2.66. Let's try and get it to like 2.67. Yeah, that was 2.67. I think they increased the range by like 0.05. Very, very minute change in the range, but it looks to me like it's got a tad bit more range, but it's very, very unnoticeable, if that makes sense. So the range is pretty much the same, but of course it launches on normal hit now, which is crazy. The second thing I will say is now it acts as a single hit tailspin attack. So this is useful in situations where, you're approaching the wall. And if you do your regular wall combo, for example, like this, or regular wall carry combo, sorry, you're going to be too far. It's going to carry too far. So sometimes you'll need to kind of cut the combo short, and you can do that now with forward 4. So that's another good change. Okay, let's talk about punishment on forward 4, because in the patch notes, it did say that they made the move -12 on block. So I'm going to show you that quickly. So block all, as you can see, it's -12. Now, let's set Paul to do back 1-2, because that's his 12 frame. Okay. As you can see, that's Paul's 12 frame back 1-2. Now, I'm going to space myself to where he can't punish it. So there's going to be ranges and instances where he just can't punish it because the active frames. So as you can see, this is -14. So I can bait Paul to do that and then down forward 1-4 punish. So we're going to test it again. I'm going to down forward 1-4 Paul for doing it. Some characters, 12 frames, as I said before, are -15. So Asuka's, Lily's, for example, those punishes are -15 and are launch on block. If you space it perfectly, you can actually punish their punish if they try and punish it optimally. So that's back 1-2. What about if he tries to jab? So we're going to set up a punish where he tries to jab. So we're going to do just jab, right? See, he can't punish it. So this is kind of insane that you can kind of set up spacing traps with forward 4 and punish their punish attempt, if that makes sense. But I'm going to switch back to back 1-2 and show you me punishing it with down forward 1-4, because it's kind of crazy how you can kind of set up punish attempt bait and punish them for trying to punish a -12 attack. It's just insane to me, but we're going to look at that situation. That's insane. So do you see what I mean when I say you can kind of set up spacing traps? So you can do stuff like that, which is kind of crazy. But we're going to move on to heat burst and what we can do with heat burst. As I said, the heat burst change is not really significant. There is one combo that I want to try with heat burst, which involves forward 3 into heat burst. But it comes from a long wall carry combo, so this can be very inconsistent. So we're going to try it and see what that looks like. So I'm going to turn Paul off block. So this is the combo that I wanted to try. Forward 3 and now you heat burst. Now, previously what I had to do was sidestep left in order to get this to be consistent. So I'm going to show you what I mean by sidestep left, heat burst. This is consistent. But if I wanted to do it normally with no sidestep, it would whiff. So I'm going to test it out and see. So this is consistent now, but I would advise you to kind of still go for that sidestep because depending on character size and all that stuff, it could potentially still whiff. So I would say if you want to get, I'll show you another combo, for example, like this. Just sidestep. Now there are cases where you don't need to sidestep, so that is actually a combo where you don't actually need to sidestep because this puts the opponent off axis anyway. And you can heat burst. So let's do that from the wall. So you don't need to sidestep in order for this to be consistent. It will always hit. So that is not necessarily a good showcase. I'm going to show you another one. A harder combo. Slightly more difficult to do. Here you would need to sidestep because this can whiff. If you don't sidestep, this can sometimes whiff. So again, I would urge you to still sidestep left, except if you're doing this route. Don't sidestep if you want to do forward 3 heat burst because this can whiff. It has to be a deep dash forward 3 as well. So I'm going to show you one last time. Deep dash, heat burst, bam. Okay, something cool with heat burst is now you can do count hit down back 4 and combo with heat burst forward 4. You couldn't actually do this before, so sometimes this would just whiff. Now, again, it only works point blank, but really and truly, counter hits in training mode are not a real representation because if you counter hit someone, that means they've attacked. So you will be closer naturally anyway. So this works, which is kind of crazy. Combo potential. So those are Raven's changes in a nutshell in version 1.08. For me personally, I was very surprised that they would even touch Raven. I mean, no one was really asking for a 15 frame launcher. We were more asking for back turn down 4 buffs, back turn throw mix up potentially coming back. I know I'm being cheeky there, but you know, I think because he had it in every other iteration of the game, even Master Raven had this, I just think it just takes away a little bit from the character because he always had a back turn throw mix. And, you know, he was the back turn character. So for him to not have, you know, a high crushing low that's not launch on block is kind of crazy to me because Lily has one, Feng has one, Hwoarang has one. Why doesn't Raven have a safer high crushing low? And bear in mind, a lot of these characters have high crushing lows that are like -12, -13 that either counter hit launch or counter hit knockdown. Hwoarang's back turn down 3, I think it is. That counter hit launches and that's -13 on block, I think it is. So this is my point. I think the patch is very good for, you know, whiff punishment, movement based Ravens like myself who like to control the space, who play on fundamentals and poking. Whiff punishment is super nice. Like this is just insane to have, honestly. But it's just, I don't think it solves Raven's core issues with the character and the character being reliant so heavily on back turn and the fact that he just doesn't have back turn down 4 yet anyway. I'm hoping for season 2 or maybe 1.09. It just kind of kills the character for me. Not killed, but it just makes the character way more frustrating to play, if that makes sense, because it's very difficult to stop mashing. I have to like really hard read people pressing now. And it's like back turn down 4 just kind of acted as a all-purpose seasoning type move. But anyway, this video is not about back turn down 4. It's about forward 4 and heat burst. So I personally like the changes. Let me know what you think in the comments about Raven's forward 4 and Raven's heat burst change, especially with this as well. This new combo route is kind of nice. So yeah, definitely do let me know in the comments. But those are Raven's changes. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.